Hi, everyone. I'm Julia Duzon. I am the COO of River, which is a US-based Bitcoin-only exchange. We offer full proof of reserves, zero fees on recurring orders, and we pay interest on FDIC-insured dollars in Bitcoin. Please join me in welcoming the rest of our panelists. Maybe Miles, Christian, Jodi, do you want to come on out? Please give them a round of applause. All right, so we're going to be talking about the future of Bitcoin banking. And all the folks here, they run companies that power customer-facing apps, wallets, and exchanges. So you maybe haven't heard of the company, but I promise in some way you've probably touched their services. So with that, I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves and just talk about how might folks here have actually interacted with your company.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Miles Paschini. I'm the CEO of FV Bank. And if you are conscious about what the future of banking should look like, then you may have an account with us already. We're a bank that's built from the ground up to support blockchain and crypto integration. So quick example is we're the first bank that ever integrated wallet addresses directly into your DDA. So if you do come to FV Bank and you get an account, you can use it like a traditional bank. You can manage stablecoins. You can custody your Bitcoin. You can buy and sell Bitcoin directly in your account. So we really are the future of banking.
Hello, my name is Christian Ribeiro, and I am CEO of Gold. Gold is a payment institution from Brazil, and we are specialized in instant payment methods. We provide technology to connect now with the payment method from the Brazilian Central Bank called PIX, that is a QR code payment that send transactions in real time 24/7 between persons, between companies, person to companies. So we help international companies to connect with this space, with this kind of technology in Brazil through our payment institution there. We also provide payment accounts for small companies, traders, OTCs that need to use this technology to pay in and pay out.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Jodi Mettler. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at BitGo. I'm super excited to be here today. For those of you who may not be familiar with BitGo, I'm sure you've actually interacted with us in some way in the past. So we provide wallet services, custody, settlement, payment rails throughout the industry and the ecosystem. So for example, if you've ever participated in a spot ETF, traded Bitcoin on an exchange, multiple different ways, we're probably securely storing those assets somewhere in the background. So that's what BitGo does, and super excited to be part of this conversation about banking.
Great, thank you all. From my vantage point, the sentiment of traditional banks towards Bitcoin companies has changed quite rapidly in the last couple of years. It was just 2 years ago that SVB, Silvergate, Signature, companies or banks that were friendly to Bitcoin companies all collapsed, and then everybody in the industry said, we won't serve you. And even in the last few weeks, folks wouldn't take my calls. Now they're calling me, seeing if they can help River customers, which is great. I'm curious, what's your take on the evolution of this relationship between banks and Bitcoin? That's open to anybody.
Well, I'm happy to take it. Fortunately or unfortunately, I lived through that time running a bank, so it was quite an interesting time. I would say that the sentiment has changed in the industry, but at the ground level, not a lot has really changed yet. So, I think from a high-level regulatory trade winds, I like to call them because they can change direction, that things are looking better. But we are starting to see what the industry calls other banks leaning in. And I think it's important to make a distinction. There's banks that will open an account for a crypto-related company or a customer dealing in crypto versus someone like FE Bank who's being built from the ground up with infrastructure for blockchain-based banking activities. And so I encourage any banks to step in, be cautious. It's been a rough road for a lot of people. But the real future is building blockchain-based infrastructure that allows banking to change.
Jodi, do you have any thoughts on this relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I also lived through that. So BitGo did. BitGo it provides the custody for those assets, right? So fiat on and off ramps are super important today in any type of Bitcoin banking. We want to be able to get money in and out. Through that time, it became very difficult for custodians and other servicers that had retail and institutional clients to get those rails, and so it almost became prohibitive for new joiners to come into the industry, particularly banks. And so what Miles is doing is fantastic. What we're seeing over the last 6 months, really the last 3 months, is that door opening again to crypto companies, because banks understand that they need to evolve or they're going to be obsolete.
Christian, I'll come to you next. I have one quick follow-up for Miles. Running a bank that's primarily focused on Bitcoin and digital asset companies, if more banks come into the space, is that a threat for your business?
I don't think it is at all. I mean, there's the market's going to grow. This is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar market. People are really happy to talk about stablecoin and the growth of stablecoins right now. Bitcoin's obviously increasing in value, becoming a treasury asset for so many people. So, when people ask me that question, I say, well, if you look at the brokerage industry, we could probably name 10 massive brokers that have mega billion-dollar valuations. There's room, but our view is that we have a head start, a couple of years at least, and we want to leverage that head start.
There's room, but it's nice to be first. Christian, I'm curious about your company. Can you maybe just elaborate on what you do? And there's been some major innovation in Brazil with the introduction of Pix in 2020. Can you just explain how that's evolved the digital payment space?
Of course, yes. I would like to take the opportunity to talk about Pix. Why? Because Pix, in my opinion, is inclusion, right? It put around 75 million new persons inside the financial system in Brazil, increase the competition, put the fintechs together with the banks, and it was pushed by the Brazilian Central Bank. And why this is important? Because we know technology is here, right? So we have blockchain technology. Everybody agrees that blockchain is the best technology for banks now, for transfers, for wallets, for everything. But we need to make it available for everyone. I think now we are looking for mass adoption in the case of Bitcoin. And we just did it in Brazil. In only 5 years with Pix, we were able to put all the financial institutions together in the same ecosystem, and it works very well. Everyone in Brazil today, if you talk about Pix, is more than 150 million people using this. So it's all the country, everybody uses, so it's very good because make it simple for people to get into the financial system.
And so if Pix is solving peer-to-peer digital payments in the whole country, what's the use case for Bitcoin in Brazil?
So we are specialized in cross-border payments, and at the moment, we can connect this kind of technology, and what we believe that will be the future is different countries are creating their own Pix, right? Different ways. We have SEPA in Mexico, we have PSE in Colombia, we have Portugal with his product, Spain with Bizun. So there is different technologies coming to the space with this kind of solution. And what we do, what I believe, it's like a kind of hybrid between Pix, for example, and the stablecoins, Pix and crypto. Hybrid solution where we connect all this ecosystem, like we have today Visa, MasterCard, and Pix will be kind of third network or another network for users to explore payments.
Jodi, can you talk a little bit about institutional adoption that you're seeing of Bitcoin?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been around for a long time, right? So there's been a reason that we at my company, BitGo, do institutional custody, right? Because the institutional adoption has really grown. And that people need a secure way to store that. And I know there's always controversy on self-storage or doing it with a third-party custodian, but there's definitely a conversation if you start having Bitcoin that was from $1,700 to now over $100,000, and let's hope $500,000 of Bitcoin. If you have a wallet that has $5 billion in it, like, are you really sure that's secure? So there's got to be different secure methods behind that. But you're seeing that. You're seeing these institutions come in with these large dollar amounts, whether that's their own treasury or holding it on behalf of other people. It's pretty phenomenal what we've seen over the last few years.
And so BitCo will do institutional custody, which might be just for high net worth individuals or companies coming straight to you, but you'll also be the custodian for exchanges who operate as the front end to consumers. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. We'll be a custodian. So like I said earlier, if you've traded on some major exchanges, we're probably in the background securing those assets for you, right? Because it's not your individual wallet that's being secured. It's a large, sometimes an omnibus wallet that's on the back end being secured by BitGo.
At River, it's really important for us to be vertically integrated. We think it's core to our mission, to building trust with our clients, that they should know if they're not going to hold their own keys, they at least know that it's River who's doing it. In a setup where someone's leaning on BitGo, that's not exactly the case. Do you think it's important that consumers know who the actual custodian of their Bitcoin is?
Absolutely. And I don't know that all consumers read the fine print, right? And most agreements and terms and conditions are going to see that there's a custodian or third party named there. I think it is really super important that they know where their assets are being held.
How can you increase that? Because I imagine a lot of folks in here, they're actually custodying their Bitcoin with BitGo, but they have no idea.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I don't think anybody in this room, including myself, wants to read, a 50-page legal document and to find where their custodian is. And so it's really important, particularly if you're looking at certain fintechs or apps that you're using, on their web pages, they will list if they're using BitGo as a custodian. Very prominently, BitGo, and it's something we're not really talking about today, also has insurance for that, right? So it's something that you really should do the research on as a consumer.
Jodi, I at least agree with you there that people should definitely read the fine print and know who you are custodying with, please. Miles, coming back to you, before FV Bank, you were a founder of another company. Can you just talk a little bit about that journey and then how it led you to found a bank?
Yeah, I was the co-founder of a company called Wavecrest. We were the first company to ever connect a Visa card to a Bitcoin wallet, and this was in the latter part of 2012. We launched in 2013 with our first client called Zappo, which many of you might know that name. It was an amazing journey. Just fast forward to 2017, we had 1 million customers in 70 countries. And at that time, when people weren't talking about the convergence of TradFi and blockchain, our customers were spending $200 million a month of Bitcoin through a Visa card. We learned a lot. There was, I'll call it the anti-money laundering police, and every corner worried about what we were doing. The banks that we were working with were really confused. Like, where's this coming from? What are people spending on? And what was kind of an amazing point to a horrible end was that we would go to the networks and say, people are pumping gas, they're buying groceries, they're booking hotels, they're booking airplane flights. Like, Bitcoiners were actually living a normal life, spending their Bitcoin. But the world was not really ready for it at that point in time. I'm not ashamed to say in 2018, we got a cease and desist order from Visa and shut off 1 million cards. But we learned a lot. We learned that you need to have the right licenses in the right jurisdictions. We learned that you need to develop bespoke compliance that really focuses on the inherent risks in this particular industry. And we wanted to own the technical infrastructure. So FV Bank stands for Fintech Ventures. We saw it as a fintech. The joke I like to tell everybody is we could have called it BV Bank for Blockchain Ventures if we knew where the road was going to take us. But we really are built with a mission and with scars on our back.
What do you think happens to Visa over the coming decades?
That's a great question. Look, they publish one of the best reports on stablecoin traction in the industry. They've been tracking it for several years now. I think they're apparently aware of the threats that it exists for them. We're a Visa principal member. You can settle on the back end in stablecoin today. I think that they have to innovate as well. If they don't, I think stablecoins are technically kind of overtaking them in raw volume right now, but I don't think raw adoption like from a consumer perspective. But if I was at Visa, I'd be putting a ton of resources on figuring out how do I get ahead of this. Not just stablecoins, like all crypto.
Talking a little bit more about stablecoins, Christian, are you seeing stablecoins competing with Bitcoin, or do you think Bitcoin will ultimately overtake stablecoins in being the leader for facilitating cross-border payments?
I think it's possible. At the moment, we have a lot of demand from clients to use stablecoin for settlements, but I believe when you do a solution between wallets, right? Let's say a wallet in Brazil and a wallet in Spain for people to pay each other, you can use Bitcoin in the middle. Lightning technology, any of these things will work because it's all real time and work 24/7, right? I think this kind of change is what is making the difference for Brazil and Latin America in leading like this approach to crypto, getting close to more and more people using this because it's simple. There is no friction, right? So I don't need to wait like 1 day, 2 days to send the money to the exchange, for example. It works in real time. It's simple. Fintechs like ours understand about the business, so we know who are the traders, what they're doing. So we have this kind of APIs ready to understand everything that is happening. And this is what we are investing our time at the moment to make this kind of technology international not only available in Brazil, but make sure that we can connect all the countries using blockchain, and in this case, Bitcoin.
The topic of this panel is the future of Bitcoin banking, legacy integration, or new business model. What do you all think? 5 to 10 years out, is it all just integration with the existing system and it gets incrementally better, or is it a rip and replace?
I'll start. Miles and I have talked about this in the past. I think there's a parallel path here. You can't rip and replace the fiat system as it is today, right? We'd all love to see that happen. It's so integrated with things even outside of banking, whether it's taxes or anything else, right? That rip and replace, let's think about this. Like if you think about gold, which was outlawed in 1933, right? You can't hoard gold. You start ripping and replacing Bitcoin into this model, you're going to see countries real fast decide that they're going to outlaw it, right? So you need to run a parallel path and build from the ground up the infrastructure that to have Bitcoin banking replace in the future traditional financial models.
Miles, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think I agree on the parallel paths. I don't think that you're going to see a fully blockchain-based bank emerge tomorrow that would be successful at this point in time. I think there's, all the way from like national security to keep things like the Fed Reserve running, and there'll be a lot of protection to make sure that happens. So I see banks like FV Bank evolving and integrating blockchain technologies very aggressively, but they'll still have that core connection to the traditional banking system. I can tell you that we're very active in the crypto industry. The on-ramp and off-ramp to the US dollar is, if we don't have that, the crypto market dies. There's not a closed crypto market that will survive. And so the core role of a bank of providing on-ramp and off-ramp to fiat currency is a super important role, but you need to evolve the bank into being totally connected and leveraging blockchain technologies. I also see there will be people who will try to do like pure play banks. I don't think the consumer will understand them completely, but if we go maybe 5 to 10 years ahead, I could see totally blockchain-driven institutions. If the Genius Act passes, it's highly likely that we'll tokenize our deposits in the near future. So that'll be like a progression towards being more blockchain-driven. And I also think you'll see, just not to take too much time, but I think you're going to see with Bitcoin in particular, the market's going to go towards, nobody's going to want to sell their Bitcoin. I think anybody in this room who's bought probably doesn't want to sell, even at 110. And the lending market for Bitcoin as collateral is probably going to be one of the biggest banking markets in the world.
your comment around the critical on and off ramps with fiat and Bitcoin. At River, we have this thesis around the dual money era, which we believe people are increasingly going to be saving in Bitcoin, but they still have to spend and interact with the world in dollars. And that's just frankly the reality. If you have a family, if you have a home, you have a mortgage payment, you just have financial obligations in dollars. And so what River is actually building for is more people wanting to put more of their wealth into Bitcoin, but making it absolutely seamless for you to still interact with the world and to pay your bills. And what I think that ultimately leads to is today we have all these TradFi banks who are thinking, maybe I could offer Bitcoin. But what's going to happen is it's actually going to be the Bitcoin native companies like River who offer fiat services, but just for this interim period of time that we absolutely need it. And so the same way you're seeing Coinbase replace Discover Financial in the S&P 500, your top 10 list of banks in the future is actually going to be Bitcoin native companies. So I guess we only have a couple minutes left. Jodi, you spent 21 years at Citibank before you joined BitGo, a very serendipitous number of years there. What do you think happens to Citibank in 21 years?
Wow, that's a great question. Any other Citibankers out there before I answer this question? I think banks in general, there will be institutions in 21 years that still call themselves banks. If that's Citibank, who knows, right? But they won't function like the banks do today. So the traditional markets of what banks do, whether that's on and off, like deposits, all those types of things, credit, lending, that could all change, right? And they're going to have to evolve to survive. There will be, just like you said, you made a perfect point, right? The top 5 banks in the future won't be the Citibanks, the JPMs, unless they evolve, right? And in evolving, it means that they're going to have to go to a blockchain-based system where they're able to integrate with digital payments, right, in a different way than they do today. So it'll be really interesting. I don't want to say one way or another because I don't have a fortune ball in front of me, but yeah.
Christian, if you had a traditional financial services bank CEO sitting in front of you, what advice would you give him today?
Well, I think they need to improve their technology, right? And get closer to what people are using. At the end of the day, the consumer will decide what's best, right? I can see, for example, new generation in Brazil. We have a lot of streamers, gamers, people that play online and earn money. These persons, they are already using blockchain as their main income, right? So they use crypto to get paid by what the service they are providing around the world, right? And it's curious because they don't want to get paid in fiat anymore. They keep big part of their resource in crypto because they think the products are better. So they think it's better to invest in Bitcoin, to keep it there, to use in other ways, pay their providers with crypto is much easier without friction, right? So I think this generation is already perceiving this situation. And I think this will happen sooner or later, right? And the idea here is to provide this connection with the old world, with the new world.
Miles, same question, but more pointed. Jamie Dimon is sitting right here. What would you say to him?
Tough one. No offense to Mr. Dimon, because I haven't met him personally, but I would say stop talking out of both sides of your mouth. I figure that they're looking at this saying, is this a threat or an opportunity? And in order to play, an interesting role, you talk out of both sides of your mouth, you build quietly to protect your future, but you talk it down in public. And I think you see a lot of that. You see it in regulators have done that. I won't say the name of the divisions, but come in and talk to us about your project while the enforcement officer sits there in the meeting. So, yeah, I would say, get behind it. Technology changes a lot of industries. I think we're getting ready to see like how autonomous cars are going to change our life pretty quick. AI is going to change our life pretty quick. Blockchain-based financial solutions are going to change our life. And I don't think that I don't think that individuals can stop this movement. I think it's going to happen. It is happening, and this room is evidence.
Good job, Miles. I think with that, we're up on time, but I think the takeaway from this group is that the train has left the station. Bitcoin is happening, and it is going to be a primary form of money. And it's for traditional financial services, it's you either get on board or you're going to get left behind. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.